Let me ask you a question, one you've probably never truly considered. What if one man, the right man, didn't just change your life, but rewired your mind and awakened a version of you that even you didn't know existed? Listen closely. I'm not talking about a fairy tale romance or some surface level relationship where people just get along. I'm talking about a connection so powerful it disrupts your very biology, your thought patterns, and even your future. Science proves this. The people you bond with literally shape your neural pathways, changing your brain at a cellular level. The right man doesn't just love you, he upgrades your entire operating system. When a woman meets a man aligned with her highest self, her brainwaves shift, stress patterns dissolve. Her heart literally begins to beat in coherence, activating electromagnetic fields that radiate empowerment. Her hormones balance, and she enters a flow state of creation. She no longer reacts to life, she creates it. The right man doesn't merely fit into a woman's life, he transforms it in ways that defy logic and expectation. His presence doesn't just feel comforting, it feels catalytic, as if his energy ignites something dormant inside her, something waiting to rise. He doesn't love her in a way that keeps her where she is. Instead, his love is a mirror, reflecting back her potential so clearly that she can no longer ignore it. He challenges her to see herself through his eyes, not as a reflection of her past doubts or insecurities, but as the infinite creator she was always meant to be. This man doesn't feed her superficial compliments or empty words. His actions carry a frequency, a vibration that resonates with the core of her being. His very presence communicates. You are more than you've been told. You are more than you've allowed yourself to believe. And when those words, whether spoken or unspoken, land in her mind, they begin to dismantle the lies she's been living under. And suddenly, she stops seeing her limitations as truths. Instead, she sees them as illusions that no longer hold power. The right man has a way of shifting her focus. Where she once fixated on her fears and failures, he redirects her attention toward her strengths and her untapped potential. It's not that he fixes her, because she was never broken. It's that his energy activates a knowing deep within her, a knowing that she is capable of greatness. She begins to understand that she doesn't need saving, she needs space to evolve. And he gives her that space. He creates an environment where she feels safe enough to break her own chains, to rewrite her own story. His influence doesn't stop at words or gestures. It goes deeper, penetrating the very fabric of her thoughts and emotions. His energy doesn't overpower hers. It harmonizes with it. Together, they create a frequency that elevates her state of being. She starts to feel lighter, not because her challenges disappear, but because she no longer carries them alone. His presence reminds her that she's not fighting the world. She's shaping it. His belief in her becomes a fuel that propels her forward faster and farther than she ever thought possible. When she's around him, something changes in her physiology. Her heart begins to beat in coherence, syncing with the rhythm of her newfound clarity and purpose. Her mind becomes calm but focused, as if a fog has lifted, revealing a path she couldn't see before. Her nervous system, which may have been locked in cycles of stress and survival, begins to relax. In this state of balance, her creativity flows effortlessly, her intuition sharpens, and her confidence grows. She becomes attuned to her own power, her own ability to create and manifest the life she desires. The right man doesn't compete with her light, he amplifies it. He doesn't feel threatened by her success or intimidated by her ambition. Instead, he celebrates it, nurtures it, and stands beside her as she steps into her greatness. He doesn't seek to overshadow her, he stands as a steady pillar of support, a reminder that she can shine as brightly as she dares. And the brighter she shines, the more magnetic she becomes, drawing opportunities, abundance, and joy into her life. His love is not a cage, it's a launch pad. He doesn't try to mold her into his vision of perfection. He sees her as she is, flaws, scars, and all, and still believes in her limitless potential. This acceptance is transformative. It gives her permission to stop hiding, to stop apologizing for her strength or dimming her light for the comfort of others. With him, she feels seen, heard, and valued, not for what she does, but for who she is. And in that space of unconditional acceptance, she begins to evolve. She starts taking risks she never would have dared before. She begins to dream bigger, to think beyond the confines of what she once believed was possible. She steps out of her comfort zone, not because he pushes her, but because his energy inspires her. His belief in her becomes contagious, and soon she starts to believe in herself with the same intensity. She realizes that she doesn't need to settle for anything less than extraordinary. Not in her relationships, her career, or her life. The transformation he inspires is not one of dependence, but of empowerment. She doesn't lean on him to do the work for her. She does the work herself, but with a newfound strength she didn't know she had. He becomes a catalyst, not a crutch. And as she grows, she begins to see herself as unstoppable, unshakable, and undeniable. She starts to walk differently, speak differently, and think differently. Her energy changes, and the world around her begins to shift in response. The right man doesn't seek to take credit for her transformation. He understands that his role is not to lead her, but to walk beside her, to hold space for her evolution without trying to control it. He doesn't need to be the hero of her story. He's content to be a chapter, a presence that supports her in becoming the hero of her own life. And in doing so, he earns a place in her heart that is unshakable, not because of what he does, but because of who he is. This transformation isn't just emotional or spiritual, it's biological. Her brain begins to rewire itself, forming new neural connections that support her growth. Her body responds, releasing hormones that make her feel alive, inspired, and capable. Her energy shifts to a higher frequency, one that attracts abundance and opportunity. She becomes magnetic, not because she's trying to be, but because she's finally aligned with her true self. The right man doesn't just love a woman, he activates her. He awakens parts of her she didn't even know existed, parts that were buried under years of doubt, fear, and conditioning. His presence is a reminder of what's possible, a living example of what it means to live in alignment with purpose and truth. And as she witnesses his strength, his vulnerability, and his authenticity, she feels permission to embrace those qualities within herself. This transformation is not just about her, it ripples outward. As she steps into her power, she begins to inspire those around her, her friends, her family, her community. They all feel the shift. Her light becomes a beacon, showing others what's possible when you align with the right energy, the right partnership, the right love. And that ripple effect? It changes lives, not just hers, but everyone she touches. The right man doesn't just fit into a woman's life, he transforms it. And in doing so, he transforms the world. When a woman meets the right man, something extraordinary happens, not just in her heart, but in the very chemistry of her body and mind. His presence sends waves of change through her nervous system, rewiring her brain and reshaping her emotional landscape. It's not magic, it's biology. And when this kind of transformation takes place, the shift is undeniable. Her thoughts change, her energy elevates, and even her physical health begins to align with this newfound state of being. Science tells us that the human brain is constantly rewiring itself. This process, known as neuroplasticity, means that every experience, every emotion, and every relationship leaves an imprint on the mind. But here's the part no one talks about. The energy of love, when aligned with authenticity and empowerment, has the power to reprogram the brain faster and more effectively than any other experience. And when a woman connects with the right man, someone who vibrates at a frequency that matches her highest potential, her entire neural architecture begins to shift. Her thoughts, which may have once been clouded by self-doubt, fear, or anxiety, start to clear. The right man doesn't just tell her she's capable, his energy makes her believe it on a cellular level. This belief triggers a cascade of neurological changes. The brain starts to fire differently, creating new neural pathways that are wired for confidence, creativity, and resilience. Old patterns of insecurity and negative thinking begin to fade because the brain can no longer sustain them in the presence of this elevated frequency. Her hormonal balance follows suit. When a woman is in a toxic or stressful relationship, her body is often flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone that wreaks havoc on the mind and body. But the right man creates an environment where her body can release oxytocin, the hormone of love and connection. This isn't just a feel-good chemical, it has profound effects on her health. It lowers stress levels, boosts her immune system, and even promotes cellular repair. Her body literally starts to heal in the presence of love that is aligned with her highest good. Her heart doesn't just metaphorically open, it physically begins to beat in coherence with her newfound emotional state. The heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, and when it's in a state of coherence, that energy radiates outward, influencing not only her own body but also the world around her. Her energy becomes magnetic, drawing in opportunities, joy, and abundance. People are naturally drawn to her because they can feel the shift, even if they don't understand it. Her nervous system, which may have been stuck in a cycle of fight or flight, begins to relax. She stops living in survival mode and starts living in creation mode. This shift is profound. In survival mode, the brain is focused on protecting itself, which limits creativity, intuition, and problem-solving abilities. But in creation mode, the brain becomes a powerhouse of innovation and inspiration. Her ideas flow effortlessly, her intuition sharpens, and she becomes a magnet for solutions and breakthroughs. This transformation isn't just about feeling good, it's about becoming powerful. When a woman's brain and body are in alignment, she becomes unstoppable. Her decisions are no longer driven by fear, but by purpose. Her confidence is no longer fragile, but unshakable. She steps into a version of herself that is fierce, focused, and fearless. And this transformation isn't temporary, it's sustainable because it's rooted in neurological and biological change. The right man doesn't control or manipulate this process, he simply holds the space for it. His presence creates an energetic environment where she feels safe enough to evolve. And when a woman feels safe, her biology responds. Her brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for higher thinking and decision-making, becomes more active. Her amygdala, the fear center of the brain, quiets down. She stops reacting to life and starts creating it. Her creativity doesn't just stay in her mind, it flows into her body and her actions. She starts to move differently, speak differently, and even carry herself differently. Her body language exudes confidence because her brain is no longer sending signals of doubt or insecurity. Her entire energy shifts, and the world around her shifts in response. Her relationships improve because she's no longer operating from a place of emotional reactivity. She communicates with clarity and compassion, setting boundaries with ease and authenticity. Her career flourishes because she's no longer held back by imposter syndrome or fear of failure. She starts taking bold risks and stepping into leadership roles that once felt out of reach. Her health improves because her body is no longer in a state of chronic stress. She radiates vitality and vibrancy, and people around her can't help but notice. But here's the most profound part. This transformation doesn't stop with her. Her energy becomes a force that influences everyone she touches. Her friends, her family, her community, they all feel the ripple effect of her elevated state. Her children, if she has them, are shaped by this energy, learning what it means to live in alignment with authenticity and love. Her presence becomes a beacon, showing others what's possible when you align with the right energy and partnership. The transformation is holistic, it touches every aspect of her being. Her mind, body, and spirit come into harmony, creating a state of coherence that is rare and powerful. And once a woman enters this state, she never goes back to who she was before. The neural pathways that have been created, the hormonal balance that has been established, and the energetic shift that has occurred are now part of her new identity. This isn't just about finding love. It's about accessing a higher version of yourself through the right connection. The right man doesn't just love a woman, he activates her mind, heals her body, and elevates her spirit. His presence becomes a catalyst for her evolution, and in that space she becomes limitless. A woman's power is innate. It's written in her very DNA, embedded in every cell of her being. She was born to be a force of nature, a creator, a leader, a visionary. But life, society, and the weight of expectations often bury that truth beneath layers of doubt and fear. She begins to question her worth, her voice, and her ability to rise. Yet the right man doesn't see those layers. He sees through them. He doesn't focus on who she's been conditioned to be. He recognizes who she truly is, and in that recognition, he becomes a catalyst for her transformation. The right man doesn't control her or seek to possess her. He doesn't operate from ego or insecurity. He understands that her strength isn't a threat to him. It's a reflection of his own power. He stands beside her, not as a competitor, but as a collaborator. And in doing so, he becomes the spark that ignites her evolution. He doesn't hand her power on a silver platter. He reminds her that she already holds it. That reminder, it's like a switch being flipped in her mind, a moment of awakening that changes everything. She begins to realize that the limitations she once believed in were never real. They were illusions, imposed by the world around her and reinforced by relationships that mirrored her doubts. But this man doesn't mirror her doubts. He mirrors her potential. And when she sees that reflection, she can no longer accept the small, confined version of herself. She starts to think differently, move differently, and dream without limits. His presence becomes the fertile ground where her confidence takes root and flourishes. He doesn't need to tell her what to do or who to be. His energy alone communicates everything. You are limitless. You are powerful. You are capable of anything. And that energy, it vibrates at a frequency that her mind and body respond to instinctively. Her brain starts firing new neural pathways, wiring her for belief instead of doubt, courage instead of fear, and action instead of hesitation. She steps into a state of creation where she is no longer a passive observer of her life, but an active architect. This shift isn't just mental, it's physical. Her posture changes. She begins to walk taller, her shoulders back, her head held high. Her voice becomes stronger, carrying the weight of her newfound certainty. Her eyes light up with a fire that's impossible to ignore. People around her sense the change, even if they can't put it into words. They're drawn to her energy because it's magnetic, unshakable, and undeniably powerful. The right man doesn't seek to control this transformation, he celebrates it. He's not threatened by her strength, he's inspired by it. And because he operates from a place of security and purpose, he encourages her to rise even higher. When she shares her wildest dreams, he doesn't laugh or dismiss them. He listens with intention, offering ideas, strategies, and unwavering support. He becomes her sounding board, her partner in vision, and her greatest champion. His presence gives her permission to take risks she once feared. She starts saying yes to opportunities that scare her because she knows she has someone in her corner who believes in her, even when she doubts herself. And that belief, it becomes contagious. She begins to trust herself on a deeper level, stepping into challenges with a newfound sense of certainty. Failure no longer terrifies her because she understands that it's just a stepping stone to success. The right man doesn't shy away from vulnerability, and that vulnerability gives her permission to be fully herself. She no longer feels the need to wear masks or hide parts of herself to be accepted. With him, she is seen, heard, and valued in her entirety. And that kind of acceptance, it's transformative. It allows her to shed the layers of insecurity and conditioning that have weighed her down for years. She starts setting boundaries without guilt because she understands her worth. She no longer tolerates relationships, situations, or environments that drain her energy or diminish her light. Her standards rise, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. And those who can't meet those standards fall away, making room for connections that align with her growth. Her creativity flourishes because she's no longer held back by fear of judgment or rejection. Ideas flow effortlessly, and she begins to manifest opportunities that align with her purpose. Her career takes off, her projects thrive, and her impact expands. She becomes a force to be reckoned with, not because she's trying to be, but because she's finally aligned with her true self. This transformation isn't about becoming someone new, it's about returning to who she's always been. The right man simply holds up a mirror to her greatness, and once she sees it, she can never unsee it. She steps into her power, not because he gave it to her, but because he reminded her it was always there. The right man doesn't compete with her for the spotlight. He stands in his own power, secure and steady, allowing her to shine without reservation. His presence becomes a foundation she can build upon, knowing that he's strong enough to hold space for her growth. And as she rises, he rises too, because true partnership is a dance of mutual elevation. This transformation doesn't just benefit her, it ripples out into every aspect of her life. Her friends, her family, her community, they all feel the shift. She becomes a beacon, a possibility, showing others what's possible when you align with the right energy and step into your truth. Her presence inspires those around her to rise as well, creating a ripple effect of empowerment and transformation. The right man doesn't need credit or recognition for this transformation. He understands that his role is not to be the hero of her story, but to support her as she becomes the hero of her own life. And in doing so, he earns a place in her heart that is unshakable not because of what he's done, but because of who he is. This isn't just about love, it's about evolution. A revolution in consciousness where partnerships aren't prisons, they're powerhouses. And when a woman steps into her power with the right man by her side, she doesn't just transform her life, she transforms the world. A woman who understands her worth will never settle for a man who keeps her small, who dims her light, or who attempts to mold her into something she's not. She knows that true love is not about control or convenience, it's about growth, elevation, and empowerment. And the right man will never ask her to shrink for his comfort. Instead, he will demand that she rise, expand, and become everything she was destined to be. That's the kind of partnership that transforms not just individuals, but entire generations. The world has conditioned women to tolerate mediocrity in relationships. Society whispers lies that tell her she should be grateful for any love, even if it leaves her feeling unseen, unheard, and unfulfilled. But here's the truth no one tells you. Love that keeps you stagnant isn't love, it's imprisonment. A relationship that doesn't challenge you to evolve isn't a relationship, it's a contract for survival. And survival isn't enough for a woman who knows she was born to thrive. The right man will never be content with your mediocrity because he sees your potential even when you can't. He doesn't let you play small or make excuses for why you can't reach your goals. He stands as a mirror, reflecting back the vision of the woman you're capable of becoming. His love is not comfortable, it's catalytic. It pushes you to confront your fears, dismantle your limiting beliefs, and rise into the fullest expression of yourself. And if that sounds intense, it's because true love is intense. It's transformative, it's revolutionary. When you're with a man who truly elevates you, something inside you shifts. You stop settling for less in every area of your life. You begin to demand excellence, not just from your relationship, but from yourself. You raise your standards, and as your standards rise, so does your life. Mediocrity is no longer an option because you've tasted what it feels like to be fully alive, fully seen, and fully supported. And once you've experienced that, you can never go back. The right man doesn't compete with you, he collaborates with you. He understands that your success is his success, your growth is his growth. He doesn't feel threatened by your ambition, he's inspired by it. And because he's secure in himself, he encourages you to dream bigger, reach higher, and demand more from life. His presence becomes a source of strength, not a weight that drags you down. But here's the thing. A woman who demands elevated partnerships must first elevate herself. She must be willing to do the inner work, to confront her own patterns of self-sabotage and insecurity. She must be willing to let go of relationships that keep her small, even if they feel safe. Because safety without growth is just another form of stagnation. And a woman who knows her power will never be satisfied with stagnation. When you step into your power and demand an elevated partnership, you send a message to the universe. I am worthy of love that empowers me. I am worthy of a partner who challenges me to be my best. I am worthy of a relationship that transforms my life. And when you declare that with conviction, the universe responds. It will remove what no longer serves you and make room for what does. But you have to be willing to let go of what's familiar to make space for what's extraordinary. This isn't just about demanding more from men, it's about men stepping up to be the partners women deserve. A man who truly loves a woman doesn't seek to control her, he seeks to elevate her. He understands that his role is not to dominate, but to support, to uplift, and to co-create. He knows that real strength isn't about overpowering, it's about empowering. And when he operates from that space, he becomes a force of transformation, not just for his partner, but for himself. Men must rise to the challenge of being partners who inspire greatness. This means letting go of outdated notions of masculinity that equate strength with control and power with dominance. True strength is found in vulnerability, in the willingness to grow, learn, and evolve. True power is found in collaboration, in standing beside a woman as an equal, not above her as a superior. And when a man embodies these qualities, he becomes magnetic, not just to women, but to success, abundance, and fulfillment in every area of his life. Relationship built on mutual elevation is a powerhouse. It becomes a source of energy, creativity, and inspiration that fuels every aspect of your life. Together you become unstoppable, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. Your dreams become shared visions, your challenges become opportunities for growth, and your love becomes a force that transforms everything it touches. This kind of partnership doesn't just benefit the two people involved. It ripples outward, impacting families, communities, and future generations. Children raised in an environment where love is empowering, not controlling, grow up knowing their worth and understanding what healthy relationships look like. Friends and family who witness this kind of love are inspired to seek the same for themselves. The ripple effect is undeniable. But none of this happens by chance. It requires intention, courage, and a willingness to demand more, not just from your partner, but from yourself. It requires a commitment to growth, even when it's uncomfortable. It requires a refusal to settle for anything less than extraordinary. And when you make that commitment, the universe responds. You attract a partner who is aligned with your highest self. And together, you create a relationship that transforms lives. This is the standard. This is the new paradigm for love and relationships. No longer will women settle for love that keeps them small. No longer will men be content with mediocrity in their partnerships. We are entering an era where love is a catalyst for greatness, where relationships are built on mutual elevation and empowerment. And when we step into this new paradigm, we don't just change our lives, we change the world. When a woman connects with the right man, her entire existence transforms in ways that defy logic and expectation. She steps out of fear and into possibility, sheds the weight of limitation, and becomes the unstoppable force she was always destined to be. His love is not a pedestal or a prison, it's a launch pad. And when she rises, the world shifts in response. This is the power of an elevated partnership. It's not about settling, it's about soaring. It's about two people who meet as equals and fuel each other's evolution. The right man doesn't complete a woman, he activates her. And in that activation, she becomes limitless. And if you're listening to this right now, know this: settling is a betrayal of your destiny. Demand more from love, from life, and from yourself, because when you rise, when you step into that highest version of yourself, the right man won't just watch you from a distance. He'll rise with you, transforming not only your life, but the legacy you leave behind. This isn't just about love. It's about rewriting what love can be. And when we do that, we don't just change relationships, we change the entire world.